Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call the Town of Cedar Lake Board of Zoning Appeals September 12, 2024 meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Riley?
Here.
Mr. Hunley?
Here.
Mr. Jackson?
Present.
Mr. Burnham?
Present.
Mr. Kapora?
Present.
Mr. Austin?
Present.
Mr. Bungie?
Present.
Mr. Kubiak? Ms. Hayduke is present.
Okay, first item is minutes of May 9th, 2024, June 13th, 2024, July 11th, 2024, and August 8th, 2024. These have been distributed. If there is no corrections to them, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second it.
Have a motion by Mr. Jackson and a second by Mr. Hunley. Roll call, please.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Kapora?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Old business, number one, Sebastian Rossi requesting relief from the Board of Zoning Appeals decision on September 10, 2020. The request is to allow an existing pool to remain 18 inches into the easement. We have the petitioner here.
Yes, sir.
Name and address for the record, please.
Sebastian Rossi, 14765 Ivy Street, Cedar Lake, Indiana.
Tell us what your request is.
Pardon me?
Tell us what your request is.
I'm requesting a pool deck. A deck for my pool. And the reason why I've been going through this for like a year, because my pool's 18, they said I had an as-built done, I had to pay for a new as-built, and you already had the survey, a plot for my property, and some other documents and information all in my file, and they just want to put a deck up to get in my pool. And they're telling me my pool is 18 inches in your easement, which is, there is no utilities back there, because there's a report that I heard that was done by somebody in the office that said they came out and said there's no utilities back there. None. All my gas, electric, and water and sewer, all in the front of my house. And the deck will not be in the easement. You know, I'll bring it in 2 feet.
Well, we don't know because the deck isn't part of this request. It's not on your,
Oh, okay.
it's not on your,
So here, I'm only here today for what,
well, you're
if I can
asking
get
for
in.
relief from the 18
Yeah.
inches for
Yes.
your pool being
Okay.
into the easement.
Okay.
According to your as-built here also, your shed is supposed to be up out of the easement. Your shed is in the easement right now.
Okay, here's the situation. The shed's been there 14 years, and all of a sudden, a year ago, they want me to move it. Been there for that long. And the okay gave me the permit. But here, I moved it, put it 6 feet from the house. Somebody came out and said that it was okay. Can't be 6 feet from your house. Got to be 10 foot, right? Any structure has to be 10 foot from your house. So I put it back in the hole where it was. Put it in the same spot where it was.
Things like that, you gotta go into the building department and talk to them and see what can
I've
be
been
done.
dealing with the building department for 2 years.
I'm just telling you what you're supposed to do. I don't know what you've been
Yeah,
doing for 2
exactly,
years.
yeah.
For all I know right now is that you've got your swimming pool 18 inches into the easement, you have your pool pump and a pad and what have you in the easement, you've got your shed in the easement, you provided us with an as-built drawing after you put the pool in, and on that as-built, you had moved your shed up to out of the easement,
Yeah.
and then after he gave you the as-built, you moved your shed back.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Building
Only
department, any
because,
comments?
here, this is the situation, don't mean to interrupt you, but there was supposed to be a document drawn up. I was told that whatever was in the easement through the town lawyer, whatever was in the easement could stay in the easement, but you couldn't put anything new in the easement. Because I'm considered 2 front yards, parish is. That's what they consider. Everybody down the street's got stuff in the easement. Everybody. There's 24 houses on that street. Why am I the only one getting singled out, really? I know my stuff is in there. Now, I'm probably in the wrong, but everybody else is the same way.
How long has your pool been in?
3 years, 4
Right,
years.
and you pulled a permit to get the
Yes.
pool. So when you pulled the permit, I assume you had a drawing where this pool was,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
And the pool is marked out at the same, and was installed
Yeah.
in the same place as
Same
the
spot,
drawing?
and your inspector even came out and okayed my electric and everything where the pool was.
So,
The condition of his variance, and whenever it was originally, I don't remember the whole detail, but a condition of his variance was that he provided an as-built drawing to show that the pool was not in the easement as a part of his approval by this board.
Yeah, and it ended up
So
being,
somehow, when it got put in, he got
So-
an as-built.
I got it
so the pool did get installed wrong then?
Correct.
18 inches off.
All right, so
Yeah.
we're straight on that, right?
Yeah.
The pool was installed
Oh, I agree with
wrong,
that.
the 18 inches?
I agree, yeah.
Okay. Is it illegal to put a shed in a utility easement? To my understanding, as long as there's not a foundation underneath it?
There's not nothing is allowed in an easement, so I don't understand again, this has been something that's been being worked on for it seems like ever to me also, along with Mr. Rossi, but, he is correct in saying when you look from his rear yard and look both north and south, there's other things that are in the easement. Not
And so then, and I noticed you have a fence around this pool, correct?
No, the fence around the yard.
But if it's around your pool, it's in your backyard.
Yeah, yeah.
Your back of your fence is in the utility easement, correct?
All of it.
All of it is, the whole fence all the way down the road.
So
north and south.
fences are, I'm just trying to get this right.
Yeah.
Fences aren't allowed in the easement either?
No, they are.
According to the permits that were given for the fences, they should be on that property line. This has been happening since the beginning.
Forever.
This has
Right,
been happening
right.
all down that line. There's people that's, fences are 5 feet in on the easement. They drew it that they were putting them on the property line. Somebody picked a line and everybody lined up with that line, and then somebody moved them out to the line. I mean,
Right.
the whole thing is.
Well, technically, the property line is out there where his fence is. Just because there's an easement on it doesn't
Right,
mean that you
but
move
his
it
fence is in about 5 feet from his actual property line.
in or out.
Yeah.
So,
It's in the easement, it's not on the line, but
but
there's
it's still,
there's a 80-foot right-of-way for parish, and then there's a 30-foot utility easement in here, so what happened is everybody assumed that, when you look at the plat, you assume that the road is not 40 feet away from your backyard line, which it is, and then so basically from the edge of the pavement, there's 70 feet of easement in there, and then their backyard, so
Right.
you see how small their backyards are. The previous plan was to try to do a replat of the easement and shrink the easement down to 10 feet, so
Yeah.
that way that would clear up all of these
All
issues
of,
for
the
everybody.
whole street, north and south.
But that's what needs to happen. I mean, we can't, as a town, allow anything to be put in the easement, so I'm not sure. I know this is getting us in front of you guys, but at the end of the day, he now can't get a permit for his deck because he hasn't finished this last project since, and he's been coming in religiously for the last, I know who he is by seeing him, and I'm never in the office, so, he's been here quite
Quite a few,
Quite
every week.
often.
So the reason he
Once.
doesn't have his pool, or the reason he doesn't have his deck for his pool, is because his pool is 18 inches over.
Correct.
Yeah, where he wants to
Well,
build
the
his
reason
deck.
why
he
my
doesn't
deck will
have-
be in the easement now.
Hold on. Go ahead, John.
The reason why he doesn't have a building permit for the fence around the deck is that the conditions of his original variance were not met. So that is still an open building permit, and we do not allow somebody to open up another building permit without
I'll have it.
closing out a previous one.
The motion he was granted for easement says, "A motion was made by Nick Recupero and seconded by Jerry Wilkening to approve the developmental variance as presented to show the petitioner to have a 12 by 24 pool in the front yard of a through lot contingent on as-built survey to be completed showing no encroachments on the easement, and to move the shed to a location that meets the zoning ordinance and to include the findings of fact. That was passed unanimously, 5-0.
September 10th of 2020.
And I was the only one that was on the board at that time, that's present today.
Jeff, too.
Well, but I'm not,
That was the motion.
I don't sit with this
Yeah.
board.
He did move the shed for a time, and then he moved the shed back.
Right.
The pool somehow did not get put in the right spot, I still can't figure that one out, but something happened.
Yeah.
And,
You said that easement's nothing, no utilities go down that easement, or?
No, none. There's nothing back there.
Yeah, actually, that's not true.
Storm, Public Works, whomever would go in there, clear the easement needed to repair, and leave the property in its then condition. If there's a fence or an obstacle or something in the way, it has to be moved for the purposes of the easement, and that's at the cost of
Right, that's
property.
responsible, and I'm taking that responsibility. Because somebody's gonna draw up a piece of paper, like I said. I would be responsible to move anything I had to move, if anything had to be done in the easement. But the paper never appeared anywhere.
What about
I
the,
wasn't supposed to draw, I was supposed to
I
draw.
don't,
Well, it was discussed by Ashley months ago.
right.
And then talking it over with legal, then we determined that it was problematic to come up with a blanket release, I guess.
Not really.
Because you're gonna have to do it with everybody in the whole street.
well,
Like, you know.
Everybody's in violation.
Yeah, everybody, the whole north and south of me, everybody.
So what was the recommendation? What does the town want? So what the requirements of the town, obviously, you do want him to move his pool? Was that one of the stipulations? Or you just said if the 18 inches that he's off, if the sewer has 1.5 feet, you technically should be fine. His fence is already there. Now, was the fence installed wrong too? So whoever issued the permit for your fence, how old is your
No,
fence?
and the problem isn't with the permit that was
Yeah.
issued. The permit is, if
problem
you look
is-
at, the problem is that the fence was not put where they proposed it, putting it on the, if you look at the drawing on the permit for the fence, it shows the fence exactly on the property line. But then you go out to inspect the fence, and it lines right up with the, plenty other people.
all the rest of them.
that are
But
on
you
board.
can't argue the fact on that, when they install fences, normally they catch the property lines if there is, one to be found. But the back, isn't it better that they try to keep them in line than having them all jagged all the way down?
Well, and again, it just started, and nobody ever, everybody, like as I went out and inspected it, it
Correct.
lined up with the neighbor's fence, it was a 6-foot fence in the backyard. You don't go out there with a metal detector trying to find stakes, and then.
No, and either
Until
does
you
that-
see
either
something
does
like
that
this, we
people.
have no idea that it's like this either, I mean.
I don't think the fence is the problem.
No, the fence is not the problem. The problem is that, they definitely have a hardship with using their backyards because of the 30-foot easement. There is some storm sewer all the way out towards the rear property line, but all of that would be encompassed in a 10-foot utility easement from what we've done. I've worked on this 20 times in the past 3 or 4 years about coming up with a game plan, and the game plan was to do a replat and make this easement a 10-foot utility easement in the rear, and then all of these people through the block, other than, I believe where he put his shed back is still a problem if it was a 10-foot easement, because it's all the way in the back corner, but it alleviated 95% of the problem that's on that road, but again, there's, like he said, there's 24 or so houses on that block. It's quite a lengthy stretch of property.
And what's the setback on his shed away from his house? That's gotta be a
10
minimum,
feet.
10 feet?
10 feet, yes.
6 feet off the property line.
And then now your shed is back in the easement.
It needs to be, yeah.
Why did you move it? Why'd you move it back to?
Because they told me that there was nothing that I could do. They wanted me to move my pool. I said, I'm not moving. I'm 71 years old. You think I'm gonna have somebody come out and move my pool? I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
That's why I said, you know what?
We're back in the same
So
hole.
if his space,
I'm
if
sorry,
his,
you know,
if
that's what I
his
said.
shed is 10 feet off the house, then what, 8 feet off the property line?
No, the shed's further away from my house than 10 feet.
It's supposed to be a minimum 6 foot off the property line,
Right.
10 feet
So
from
6 and
any
10,
other
10 foot
structure.
from any
you're
structure.
gonna have to move your shed again.
10
Is that
feet
what
from the
you're-
pool, 10 feet from the property line.
Yeah,
But,
The problem is not the property
You
line,
run out of space
it's
back.
the easement line.
right, the easement line is the problem.
Property line's way out. It's the easement line.
well, Jeff already answered the question for that. He said that the sewer is 18 inches all the other way. That's not gonna be an issue. All we're granting him is this 18 inches for his pool. We're not,
Yeah,
but you-
I'm not granting anything for the shed or the
Right.
fence or
It's not
anything.
on here. What's that
You can't-
30-foot easement for the planned west side interceptor at one time, going down the west side of Parish? That's why that's
Yeah,
there?
it was one of the routing paths.
Right, so that's why that 30,
There-
That's there, and we still may need that.
There's a 30-foot easement on the west side of Lynn's Way also, which I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's a 10-foot other strip there, so I don't know what the
well,
whole
I knew on the
deal was.
west side of Parish, that 30 feet was for the west side interceptor at one time.
Sewer work.
So if we granted him his variance to get his 18-inch thing, what would be the problem with that?
That you can't grant a variance to put it in the easement, that's not an option.
So the only option is to rewrite it to make it work? And that ain't gonna be by us. We don't have the
Did
right
we-
to do that.
Did we do a final inspection on this pool after he built it?
Yeah.
This is when we found out in 2020 that it was in the easement.
Yeah.
So why didn't we tell him to move it before he built it?
We has never gotten a final on it, it's still in limbo.
They found out the electric, they approved the electric and where everything was, and that was it.
It's been in
Yeah.
limbo since then.
Yeah. Just like my shed's been there for 14 years. and all
There's
of a sudden I
nothing
gotta move it.
technically we can do. If you said we can't grant him a variance to put it in the easement,
So then why?
So why is he here?
Why did he come here?
We don't know the answer.
I don't know
I come here to
why.
appeal whatever, to get the
We-
18 inches
Well, sir,
back.
I mean,
We can't help you.
there's a lot of easement issues everywhere. I mean, I live in
Yeah,
a
I get it.
subdivision where the sewer line is in people's backyard that shouldn't be where
Yeah.
they are. So, I mean, there's an easement problem all over the place. So I just, the lingo of the wording, that's what I was trying to get at, to see what the actual wording of it was and how far you're off. But if we can't grant them anything, I guess we'll have to,
you have to go back to the building department? You know,
Probably, it could also be a replat process. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
What about the other ones that are in violation?
That's
There's
part
24
of the problem.
24.
And I
On the
believe,
west side, was it on the west side of this section of Centennial that,
Lynn's Way.
or Lynn's Way that we changed or we replatted those homes? There
Yeah,
were like
the-
a dozen of them
the-
on their west,
Yeah, they were.
on the
The
west.
southwest
Down by
border,
you
because
guys.
Diamond Peak put a
West
couple
side.
sunrooms on that were encroaching on the easement, and then
Yeah.
they petitioned to reduce the easement down to 15 or 20 feet and make it.
So that's what he's gotta do.
Replatted the lots, and that's really what needs to happen. And like I said, when I first went to Mr. Ross, used to look at the whole situation, you're looking at his situation, and then you look across the fence line, and then.
everybody has that
Everybody.
situation.
Well, I'm guessing it's that,
It's a tough nut. I mean, it's hard to, and he asked like, well, if mine's 18 inches in the easement, how much is theirs in the easement, and how much, and it's fact. I mean,
Well,
there's no, that's why we started with this whole idea to try to shrink it down to, there is a 80-foot right-of-way for Parish, so at the end of the day, when you go drive down there, I mean, there's a lot of space in between.
well,
I mean, if you look at where his pool is in reference to Parish and think that's all easement, I mean, there's a mile of easement through there.
well, if we're not putting that west side interceptor on that side of Parish,
Correct,
you can reduce that easement, because that's what it was for.
right.
So if that's not going there, you can reduce that easement.
But we don't know now.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
We're fairly sure, but we're not.
So Jeff, is this something that we don't continue, or do we just drop this?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different things been bantered about here, tonight. Tim and I, in at least 3, 4 discussions, have talked about, the possibility of reducing the size of the easement, like he said, to 10 or 12 feet. We're pretty sure that would encompass where the storm sewer is, but, I mean,
Well,
like you said, it's a tough nut, and
Well, you gotta find out the final plans of the west side intersection.
well, it sounds like the west side interceptor is going to, as Tim said, it sounds like it's coming to the west side of Lynn's Way subdivision.
All the way over on the west.
And then it will then terminus at the end of, what, Rose Garden, or the Diamond Peaks?
Yeah, I mean, that was the proposed area, so.
I mean, I don't think
There's a bunch of proposed plans, but I don't believe any of the proposed plans actually came down Parrish, but
Well, I guarantee you the first one did, because some of
Well,
that stuff was way out there.
I meant the recent ones.
When we first planted, it went right down Parrish, that's why that 30-foot easement's there.
Right, but that was when we were planning on building our own sewer plant, was when that was.
So,
Hey, Dave,
That's what I was
would this be something that we would put a continuance on then, so we find what's going on with it, or?
He's never even
So he-
advertised to be here, so.
Yeah, we don't know how he got on this agenda, to be honest.
All right, so then I'm
Well, we
gonna,
did it as basically an update item, since it was a piece of old business that had never been finalized.
okay, so we're just going to drop it then? There's nothing to vote on.
I don't-
We can't approve or disapprove anything, so can we just remove it then, or?
You can, just like you can.
And then when you guys figure it out, and then and whatever he has to do, you'll have to take care of that at that time.
Even if they reduce that easement along Parish, and in the future has to be construction done on it, they'll have to remove it, right?
They will.
Anything to buy, right?
Right, but we wouldn't be reducing the road right away, or all we would do is reduce the utility easement in Lynn's Way, which I truly believe that, I know that in the Centennial subdivision, it was planned on going from the waterway there by 137th on the west side of Parrish straight down, but Centennial has since replaced all of that. Line was put in as part of Centennial, that's all done now. I mean, it's abandoned and there's a new plan, so that stuff. So the plan now is to be on the west side of Lynn's Way, so that the Rose Garden and the whole northwest area can go in, instead of going all the way around the south end of the lake, to the south end of the lake.
right,
it would
that's
go-
what it was.
Now, when you say the west side of Lynn's Way, is that right up to the farmer's field there, or what?
Yeah, your backyard.
My backyard.
Your backyard.
Yeah, you have a utility easement, we all have utility easements.
There's a big easement there, and then there's an extra 10 feet
I have one.
on that west
But
side.
they had to repair some drainage,
A couple years ago,
everybody had to remove all their stuff down the line, and everything else.
They were gonna abolish the two backyard situation, and that never came about either,
Yeah, it was like.
when I came last time.
So again, do I make a motion to just delete it or remove it?
You remove it for now from the agenda.
And then you'll have to, take up once they have their.
Yeah, just so I know what's going on when it goes on,
All right,
that's fine.
I don't have any more questions.
Who does he follow up with next then, Jeff? Does he follow up with you, or Tim, or?
Well, we need to figure out what it's gonna take to decrease, that easement and be him, and then, I guess then he would be grandfathered in for being compliant then at that point, correct?
Well, he'd come into compliance.
He would then
Right now
come into
violation.
compliance.
Code, approvals, everything happening now is gonna be after the fact, on top of it. So, we really need to put our heads together on this.
And there is some people, the other ones, I looked into all of these at one time, and the people, his neighbor's pool is completely in the easement to the south of him, and when you pull out their permit application, their pool was proposed to go all the way up out of the easement into the pool, but they got their permit, and then they waited till the end of the time and called in for a pool final, and I actually inspected the pool and approved it, because I didn't know it was a need where it wasn't supposed to be. It's friggin' 40 feet away from where they proposed putting it.
Well, my point is, how do you not notice that? If it's supposed to be close to the house and it's away from the house, you gotta know something's different. You have to know.
Right. Well, they did it intentionally, and then.
Well, intentionally or not, as an inspector,
You see it, yeah.
you should know where those lines are.
I mean, you got
That pool's
people
in
around all day,
easement.
I'm in the pool.
It shouldn't have been final
Right.
approval. There shouldn't have been a final approval.
Correct.
That should, that's partially our fault,
Yeah, 100%, I mean, I agree.
so I think the easiest thing.
Unfortunately, at that time, we built 400 new houses and all this, and I was a one-man army.
Yeah, I know. I'm
I
just
mean, I
saying.
probably spent, 2 minutes there and didn't realize that it was an easement, but
Right.
again,
So the
It's
easy,
clean though, with
so
all
the,
fences though.
the easiest thing to do is move that easement. If that, if that sewer line is going there, we don't need the 30-foot
That's the
easement.
fair way to do it, because.
Well, I agree.
He can't be singled out for being the only guy, and he's the only one in here trying to, he's
No,
being
I
held
mean-
up and proving something else, because he's.
You take a look at all of those.
Yeah,
And if you have to make that thing, get them all in compliance, because it's not their fault, it's partially their fault, partially our fault.
right, oh,
So
yeah.
let's clean it up. We don't need the 30-foot easement anymore since the sewer line's not going there, it's going on the other side. So it should be easy to reduce that easement to whatever,
Right,
just to contain the storm sewer
correct.
that's there.
That's all that's in there, so.
So I would.
That was the recommendation to Ashley when we looked at all this a year ago. And there's a whole bunch of file and paperwork and everything on this, so we'll try to figure out where all that stuff is, and there is, we have every property identified, what the issues were and the whole deal, but.
I would make that easement, if you can, small enough to get everybody in compliance. Whichever
I think
whichever one sticks out the farthest, if that's
Well, I would,
doable.
I believe the only problem that would be in the original 10-foot or 12, I think it was either 10 or 12-foot plan is now Mr. Rossi's shed, because at the time when we
Well,
did that.
if you give him more room, he can move that 2 feet or whatever,
Right.
He's already moved it.
He can, once we give him room to adjust it, he can move that shed into the
Right.
new thing.
Well, again, we're not voting on it, so we might as
No,
well
I'm
remove it,
just
so that's their thing.
Giving him my suggestion.
Yeah.
So who does the shrinkage on that easement?
Property owner. They're the owners of fee simple.
So what does he have to do? He has to,
He has to wait till we figure out how the procedure will work.
Everything stays as is until
Status
it's figured
quo.
out.
Status quo.
Yep.
Yeah, because when Diamond Peak did the block that they did in the southwest corner, they were in control of all of those parcels at the time, so they were actually, could sign off to do the amendment without,
And they retained ownership as developer.
right, so they were able to do it.
Right.
That's why they did it in that block to that road, because they had control of all of those properties, so it made it.
So now you're gonna have to send a letter, once you figure out what you're gonna do, you have to send a letter to all them property owners to let them know what's going on, so they
Correct,
can.
it's the whole deal, yeah.
So they
And it's- like he said, I think I thought there was 17, but he said 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of houses involved.
It might be like 18. It might be.
Still,
So,
Would that go to the plan commission, Dave?
It will for a refund.
And then a recommendation to the town council?
No, the council won't get it,
Okay.
just the plan commission.
that'll go all the way down to 151st Street then, right?
I don't know, we'll see when we get it.
from the,
Probably.
basically from the waterway
But
down,
that whole parish from
from the waterway down.
from where Lisway starts on Parish there,
Well,
all the way
even
down
those
to
other ones that are-
151st is
Yeah,
affected by that.
there's quite a few.
So right now, he cannot do anything, he can't get a permit or build a deck or anything until
He's
the
in
town
vi-
figures out what they're gonna do with that
He's
back
in
there.
violation of the approvals that BZA gave him. Here we are, 18 inches.
So we can't do anything for you.
Just so I know when it's all happening, and I know Tim and Jeff will let me know what's going on, so, I see him every week, down here every week. So just so I know what's going on, and it's gonna happen, and if I have to move my shed back out of the easement, whatever, I will, I don't care.
I wait until they instruct you once they
Yeah.
approve it, I wouldn't do anything.
No, I'm not gonna do anything right now.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Status quo until they,
Right. So I get
Tell you
to straight
different.
from my hand.
until they tell you different.
Right, exactly.
Okay, everybody straight on this?
Yes, straight.
Yeah, we think so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rossi.
Thank you, Mr. Rossi.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see what we can come up with.
All right, thank you.
Hopefully
All
something
right, thank you. I'm gonna introduce myself, Sebastian.
New
Don't you
business.
have to make a motion to delete it?
So,
Well, it's not even supposed to be on the agenda, right?
we can just remove it.
Keep going.
Just keep going then?
Yep.
Okay.
I know it wasn't supposed to be on the agenda, I wouldn't have heard it right first. Number one, new business, number one, David Valeris, developmental variance, owner Mark Wilson, 1804 Walden Court, Henderson, Nevada, 89074, petitioner David Valeris, 13914 Cedar Street, Cedar Lake, Indiana, vicinity of 8515 West 132nd Avenue, Cedar Lake. Petitioner is requesting to build a garage addition in the front yard with the peak of the roof at 22 feet and a wall height of 14 feet with no side yard setback and with lot coverage over 25%. Are legals in order?
Legal's in order.
Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
David Valerius, 13414 Cedar Street, Cedar Lake. It's incorrect on the agenda.
All right, she'll correct that.
I'm a contractor as well as a member of the town. I live on the lake, and we're petitioning for an 8-foot in each direction addition to an existing garage with a wall height that exceeds current zoning ordinance guidelines.
The existing garage is a flat roof, isn't it?
Correct.
So how are you getting another 22 feet? If you're just putting an 8-foot addition around the sides.
Well, it's 8 by 8, plus it's gonna have a peaked roof on it, so it's gonna be, there's blueprints that have been submitted.
Well, I've got, not blueprints, but I've got,
The whole roof is getting changed.
you know.
Correct.
Why does it have to be 22 foot high?
To match the house that is being remodeled at the property.
Is the current roof line on the house 22 feet?
No, the current roof line current roof line is less than that, but it's gonna be near 33 feet when it's complete.
When the house is complete?
Yes, correct. There's an existing permit on the house.
What's the coverage gonna be? It says greater than 25%. How much greater?
You'd have to refer to the survey to give you the exact.
You don't know that?
It's been submitted.
There's no setback off the property line, looks like? It's pretty close to the property line?
Correct. It's not extending beyond any existing building lines, it's just extending inwards towards the property.
I just can't, myself, I don't know how you're remodeling that old garage with this new addition. Basically, what's gonna happen is you're gonna build this outside, and you're gonna tear that little one down on the inside. Cause it won't make any sense if you're putting a 22-foot roof on this thing, that little garage ain't gonna be there, or whatever, boathouse or whatever it is. When I went down there and looked at it, I don't know how you're gonna get that on that corner on the lake, being that close to the easement. For sure, that little boathouse probably got grandfathered in at one time, because it's probably been there forever.
What's the length on that addition?
8 by 8 feet to the west and 8 feet to the south. So it would go
It'll
from
be
a...
20 foot wide by 28 foot long.
Correct. Currently, it's 12 by 20.
Go ahead. You guys got any more comment? Go ahead.
Well, I think if he's building that thing, he's gotta move it off the property line.
Or
'Cause
we're not-
basically, it's gonna be a new garage, come on. You're telling me you're gonna leave that little thing, once you put that big addition on there, you're gonna leave that little building up inside of it? 'Cause you're gonna have to tear it down and put the peak roof on.
Correct. That's the permit
So
that's been
it's-
applied.
So I don't know why he doesn't apply for a new permit to put up a new garage.
Because it's a remodel of existing.
Well, no, I think it should be a new garage. And he should abide by the easements. By
According
the
to
setbacks.
According to the math, he's at about 1520 of lot coverage, and 1400 is 25%, so he's about 125 feet over his 25%, just for the answer. Are you proposing on moving it all the way to the property line, or leaving it to 1.7 off?
No, we're proposing leaving it as is, extending based on the survey that was submitted and the blueprints that were submitted, 8 feet to the west and 8 feet to the south.
Are you keeping any existing walls in? Keeping that one wall in there?
The one wall
That's on the,
on the north side and the one wall on the east side would remain.
But you're gonna have to add to those walls.
Correct.
Said you wanted-
14 foot tall.
So it's a new wall. You're gonna use the little piece of the existing wall, you're gonna build up on, and it's basically gonna be a whole new wall on that site, except for that little piece.
Yeah.
So are you keeping the garage so you can keep the easement? Is that why? Because if they tear down this,
No, the
are you
point
gonna
is-
require them, if he tore this down, would you require him to come off the easement then? Is he keeping
Well, yeah,
the
that's what he's
structure
trying to-
there to
that's
keep
what he- that's
the
what he's trying
distance?
to
Is
do,
that
is
why
keep
you're
it
doing
that
it?
close to the road.
No, the point of adding onto the garage is to add on to the entire value of the property and to allow a two-car garage as well as indoor storage for boats with high towers and other items on them so that they're not having to park outside.
What is the intention, how do you plan on getting in and out of this garage?
It's 33 feet away from the house. So it has
The
one
driveway,
house.
I mean, the road ends there, I mean, you're planning on turning in between the house and the garage? The
Correct.
doors would be facing,
Doors would face the house and doors would face the lake.
Do you have a seat for a minute? I'll call for your administrators.
Yes,
Are your administrators for or against?
I'm against.
Oh, come on up. Give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Mark Kramer, Kramer with a C. My address is 13141 Polk Street. Our issue is more than one thing. As far as what you were talking about before, imagine all of a sudden that you go from a garage that you see that's 7-foot tall walls and a 10-foot peak. Now all of a sudden it's 22 feet, 14-foot walls. And it's still in the same place. It's not just us, it's also a person next to us. And I believe that there were letters sent by myself as well as another person that was supposed to be in the package that was also saying that they were not in favor of it. The reason is, besides our concern about the size and blocking the views, because let's face it, when you live by the lake, you like to be able to look at, it'd be tough with that bigger garage. The other issue is runoff. Where is this water going to go? Because if you know that corner, you don't need much rain to have flooding there. Because when they redid all the numbered streets, they did not do Polk Street, which was at the end. It ran along the lake. The intention was, they hoped, that they would have money from other projects that they would be able to roll over there and they would be able to finally address the stormwater that goes down to where this garage is being built. Plus, I thought I heard earlier that you're, I guess I'll call it permit stacking. You have to finish one permit before you can approve another one. So if they haven't finished their first permit, as far as doing the roof and things, how can they even put in for this?
What's their first permit for?
I thought for the house, we were talking about the house. They said they were planning on bringing the roof line up to 33 feet.
Yes, that's correct. It's in place and it's active.
So if that permit's active, can they have another permit
On a separate.
to do the garage?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just, the gentleman before had a project that was in 2020 that's never been closed out, so it's outstanding, it's not active.
Okay.
So that was the difference between what you're asking.
I just heard that.
No, I mean, I can see you I mean, that's the difference though. So, if you have an active permit to build a house and everything is good, you can have another permit to do a
Right.
garage,
Right.
that's fine. The other gentleman just was in a situation where his permit had been expired and not closed out, and then he's coming back to do something else, so that's why that needs to be, obviously, if the time has lapsed on the permit is expired, it needs to be finished before you can move forward with other projects.
As I told Mark, as we talked before the meeting started, I'm not against people improving their properties, but at the same time, you have to take into consideration the neighbors. And the view would be changed dramatically. And I still say that there's an issue about the water, because you haven't lived until you've seen somebody drive down the street after a rainstorm that freezes, and they come into your garage. And it's because the water sits there, and it becomes a real precarious drive around that corner.
Sir, what house, where do you live? In Gordon?
13141.
Are you on the right side or the left side of this house?
Well, it depends. I'm directly
north or south?
I'm north.
So you're north of it.
On the other
So
side
his
of the
garage-
easement, on the other side of the easement.
His garage is directly behind the house that he's doing.
Correct.
So how would that visually be?
Because my house is next to, if,
His backyard, he's looking out, he looks at his garage and then looks at the lake.
yes. Yes, and across from them is my house. And if I look at the lake, if I look that way, that bigger building is going to be blocking that. As well as the person that's across the street.
Are you on the lake?
I'm on the lake.
Okay.
I'm on the lake.
Okay, is that all you got?
Yes, that's all I got.
Okay. Do we have any other Remonters Fetters? No?
You got a letter.
I'm not done yet.
Okay.
I'm not done yet. Do we have any more Remonters Fetters for or against? All right, I got a couple letters here. This is 8519 West 132nd Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Andrew, well, that's his email. To whom it may concern, I have been the sales neighbor for the past 2 years and have been discussing how he wants to redo his home located at 8515 West 132nd Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. I am in full support of the remodel he's planning to do and have no issues. I believe it will bring up the neighborhood if the addition to his home is approved. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. Thank you. Andrew Antunes. And then I got one here. It's like an email. My husband and I are currently in Florida and will not be able to make the hearing. We would like the board to hear our concerns via a letter from us. Our home is in the corner lot of 8514 West 132nd Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. We are across the street from the owner, Mark Wilson, whose address is 8515 West 132nd Avenue, Cedar Lake. It is Mr. Wilson who is asking for a variance for a new garage. Our home is in the corner of 8514 West 132nd Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. We are across the street, I'm reading that twice, huh? Our concern is mostly about flooding. The corner where we live is flooded so often we had to replace our sump pump already, and we only have owned our home since last February. Our sump pump runs constantly because the corner always seems to have water and floods easily. It has potholes, and the water runs back into our crawl space, even though there is a manhole cover sewer on the corner. It sure would be nice if the flooding problem could be addressed first before new garages built, possibly even putting on curbs in might help. Also, the green space for the fire department, which is right there, usually is soft and spongy, and he has even sunk down in one area. The sewer is broken, so anytime waves get high on the lake, it also floods the green space. Our main concern would be drainage and the placement of the gutters on their new garage and the pitch of the roof. So please take that into consideration when you see the plans for the new garage. The corner really can't take on any more water. Also, on a sad note, once the garage is built, we will totally lose our view of beautiful Cedar Lake. This was one of the reasons why we bought the house. It was because we could still see the lake. We do understand that they could understand why they would like a garage, but before the project begins, it would be wonderful if the seawall could be repaired and the roadway repaired as well, and the flooding addressed. Something really needs to be done. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Victor and Jean Conciolosi. I think I got one more. Petitioner David Falaris. Okay, that's petitioner Vicinity. We are asking that the developmental variance be denied, in which in whole due to the following impact on 132nd Avenue and 13141, 13101 Polk Street stormwater system, as well as the property of 13141 Polk Street and 8514 West 132nd Avenue. This area is prone to flooding, standing water, and is a result of the stormwater runoff, current infrastructure, and suspension of road repairs improvements. This water issue has resulted in yearly remediation to our property and safety concerns involving the lake across the lane, flooding, poor drainage into the lake. Our primary concern is that this health and safety issue will continue to replicate itself with the developmental variance by building a garage that will decrease the area of on-site runoff or direct it towards the storm sewer infrastructure that has demonstrated failure. I ask that more is learned about the garage regarding roof drainage, the method of that is gutters, downspouts that will be used to capture rainwater, and location of downspouts, and how will they discharge within their property line. The submitted developmental variance will double the current height from 7 feet to 14 feet, increase the overall peak height of the garage from 10 feet to 22 feet, as well as change the front print of the boathouse from 12 wide by 20 to 20 by 28 long. All of this on a property that is 40 feet in width. These changes to the boathouse will result in obstruction of our view, our neighbors, and the access green space. When we purchased our house, the deciding factor was our view, a common response when visiting our neighbors. If you ask if adding or remodeling a structure that restricts or obstructs between your property and your view, as is stated in this development variance, that would say no. Looking forward, M.A. Kramer, 13141 Polk Street, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Anybody else? Okay, demonstration's closed. Okay, now you can say which one.
With regards to drainage, there will be no change. There's substantially zero change that will occur whatsoever. It's just an addition to a garage. There's, whatever drainage issues are, they're gonna remain and they're gonna continue. It's not specific to the property, it's more than likely a public works issue.
When asked about the size of the door, you said for high mass boats,
Yes,
are you gonna keep, open up for business to keep boats in, or just your boats?
no, it's for personal use. It's
Just your boats?
wakeboard use boats.
That's all you want to comment on, was that flooding?
That's it.
Yeah. You got any more, Tim?
Well, I mean, I went and looked at this property before the meeting, not a big fan of, as you know, I'm not a big fan of the tall sidewalls on an accessory building. I mean, it lends itself to other things. I mean, 20 by 28, I don't know how many boats are gonna fit in that garage, let alone, I mean, it's a pretty small garage for a wakeboard boat at the end of the day.
I mean, it's just enough for one.
And to be that tall with the 12-foot door and 14-foot sidewalls right on the lakefront, I mean, he's blocking a lot of his view, not only, and again, I know you own the lakefront, you have the view. I'm not a big fan of saying that, you know, because somebody lives behind you and you build something that's gonna block the view. I know you're adding that second story on the house, and, I mean, I have concerns about obviously people's views, but at the end of the day, you know, you own the lake property, but to allow a detached garage with a 14-foot sidewall right on the property line just doesn't seem to be, you know, this needs to be incorporated into the house somehow, an addition onto the house, or something to make it cohesive instead of just putting a big tall thing out there in the yard. I mean,
It can be attached, but it's just gonna be a technicality issue.
Right, and I mean, to me, attaching a garage to the house seems to make, I don't know, and I had no idea when I went there. I never seen the plan till tonight, but I went there trying to figure out.
And
What
with
the plan
regards to views of the lake, there is no panoramic view that's
Right,
allowed to
right.
anybody that's on the lake.
No, and again, like I said, the views are not a large concern of mine, because I can appreciate the people's concern, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the house is gonna be tall, you're still quite away from the lake. I'm not a big fan of I've never been on any of them, but I think the 10-foot sidewalls on a garage needs to be maintained, and to make it that, you know, a building of that height is, you know, you take your boat and store it somewhere for the winter, I guess, but
Well,
it's not, you have a small, you have a 5,600 square foot lot, so you're limited to what you can do on a 5,600 square foot lot, obviously, but,
and you're putting a peak on it for storage, right? The top, that's
No,
why
it's
that
to
peak
match-
goes?
It's to match the house. Basically, it's to match the house. I mean,
so it's,
So
yeah,
it's-
14 foot, if you've got 14-foot sidewalls, you've got 8 foot of roof, which isn't that.
as stated, it's 22 feet. It's on the plans that have been submitted.
Well, that's what I'm saying, why couldn't you put another, instead of a peak roof, put, like it's on there now, a slant roof?
Doesn't match it up. I didn't see.
I don't care if it matches ours or not.
Plans,
Plans have been submitted for the house as well as the
so I
garage.
didn't have any.
They should be in the application here.
We don't have any plans.
We have no plans.
Well, it was all submitted.
I mean, we got a drawing, like a plat with
Right.
the
So
process.
has your house been approved?
Yes, it's approved, it's under permit, and it's a matter of the garage just being secondary to the house. So there is a permit in place for a second-story addition to the house. The house is happening.
Excuse me then, are you?
No, Jim, it's closed now.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. What's the difficulty if this isn't granted?
It's just a hardship for the fact that you can't store items that are commonly used on a lake indoors. They are stored outdoors, and, excuse my friends, who looks like shit. I mean, it's to clean up and make better the neighborhood. Additionally, you have the ability to tax it additional.
Well, you gotta do, you know, some people, you know, I know people got boats and they store them off-site when they don't need them. You know, I have a camper, I have to store it off-site. That's just, you know,
Wouldn't you prefer to have one on-site?
if I could, I would, but
Yeah.
I can't.
There you go.
So, that's what I'm saying here. I would say if you want this big of a garage, I would put in a plan for a new garage with the setbacks.
It's not a possibility, it's,
Why, you can move that garage in. You know what the problem is? Then it blocks your view. That's the only problem that garage is. If you move it in on the property, it's gonna block the view of the house. So I think that's your choice. You know, what you do with that garage. But I think, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not in favor of this. You know, I think there's other ways around putting up a garage there if you want it.
I don't
Or you
understand
store
how you
stuff.
can say that if you don't have blueprints for it. It's
You're going
fair.
22, you're going 22 foot high.
Right, but if you don't have the application in full, how are you making a decision based on an application that's not been presented to you? If you have no blueprints, they were submitted. Where are they?
You haven't provided us with a hardship involved with us. If we don't,
I did in the initial application.
a hardship involved, what's the hardship? I asked you, you said you can't store your stuff in there.
Correct.
That's not a hardship. It's not a difficulty.
You know where plans are, John?
I have not seen it yet.
This set of plans is in the town file. I don't know why they're over here, but.
This is that D-rack coming off the road.
Yeah.
It's bolt on. So if you didn't have the D-rack, you could still fix it.
I mean, we could negotiate down the size and height of the roof. The whole point of it was to make it match and make it comprehensive. But since you don't have a full application, you guys can't even see what it is that's being presented.
Yeah, see, this is what we got.
That's not the full application that was turned in.
Tim's got it.
That's the town copy of the materials that's been made. One sentence.
I'm not giving it to anybody. So that would be, you're talking the rear elevation is the lake, correct?
What's that?
Rear elevation is the lake, correct?
Correct. So there's a single door towards the lake
Oh, the single door towards the lake?
and a double
So you're calling
door,
the front the lake?
I guess, yes.
That's why I was asking, because everybody does it, it's like.
The single door is towards the lake, the double doors.
So the front
Are they going
elevation
towards the
is
road, I assume?
front, rear elevation is.
They're going towards the road,
Everybody does it,
Double doors
it's like,
going
you
towards
have
the
to
house.
ask.
towards the house. Because there is no door, there is no
You can flip
foot
the
on the
door
side.
like-
There's no road, that's that grass area.
There's no ability to make that turn.
It's got a truss certification in here with no attic space or nothing, it's just a truss roof with,
So it's not for storage.
Which is
It's for visual.
Store boats.
For visual effect.
Yeah.
If you had the full application, the blueprints for the house would be there, the blueprints for the garage would be there. You would see that it's intended to be comprehensive. I mean, you're gonna take a house from having a $200,000 value to an $800+ thousand value.
What's the normal setback on that, Tim, off of
And
the,
what,
in this garage? How, if you had to build a new one, how far off the
30 feet?
side yard?
Well, that's the front yard.
That's front yard because he's on a dedicated street.
Well, his yard is only 40 feet.
Right, yeah.
So I don't get that question.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not gonna come into.
I can see where,
I
the setback technically is 30 feet. Without a variance, I mean, there is
You guys need to see this anymore?
some of that.
Are you pouring new footings all the way around?
Yes,
So therefore, if you're pouring new footings, you're tearing down all the walls.
well, we're pouring new into, on addition of the existing foundation. It's in the blueprint. The blueprints have been submitted, I mean,
It's in the blueprint, you figured out the square footage. I'm just here to get there.
I haven't seen the blueprint for the house addition either. That wasn't submitted as a part of this variance request, but it is a separate application. I mean, obviously, his remodel, the footprint of the house isn't changing. I don't know this for a fact, but obviously, if you obtain the permit to remodel it, he's just putting a second story on it and use the existing footprint. So the house is approximately, according to that survey, the house was a little bit further off of the,
you could call it 1,200 square feet.
yeah, the house.
So with your
I
second.
thought the house
circumcision,
about
you'll
1,000
get
actually.
Correct.
2,400. That's fine.
And then we're attempting to get a two-car garage approved.
And Tim, so what is the normal wall height? Is it 8 or is it 10?
10.
It's 10?
Normal?
Yes.
Consider-
Well, is it something written in there? that it's supposed to be-
Maximum wall height for an
Is what?
accessory structure is 10 feet.
So it's 10.
That's the max allowable sidewall height without a variance.
And then the height can't be higher than the existing or the new roof line, right? Or is that the 30-foot rule too?
Well, the height kind of thing is, technically, if this wasn't in need of a variance and you're matching the pitch of your house
Right.
roof, and if you would've had a 10-foot sidewall with the same roof that matches the house, that would not have required a variance. The height is 14 foot max, unless you're matching your roof pitch of your house. So as long as you comply to the 10-foot sidewall, you would be able to put that 812 roof on it, and it could be,
Mhm.
that 18 feet or whatever it would end up being without a variance, because there is a caveat in the rules to allow your accessory structure to match your
Roof line of the house.
roof line of the house, so it could exceed that 14 foot.
Mhm.
So technically, he would be able to be about, if he matched the roof pitch, he'd be about 18 foot tall if he had 10-foot sidewalls, so 4 feet shorter than what he's
That's
asking.
what we're asking for.
And that would have been, other than the 1'7" setback, which to me sounds a little better than 0, which was advertised, I guess. But still, it's close to the property line.
Mhm. But you're not changing that setback, all right? Still staying
No,
on
we're not extending beyond any existing building lines.
on that property line.
We're staying within the lot with all of the additions.
Is there any way you guys can consider making that a 6-foot side yard and 10-foot sidewalls? I mean, moving that back 4 feet onto the property, so you had 6 foot, that kind of put it in line with the house, and then, just build it, that 18 feet, 10-foot sidewalls with
No,
the
we're
matching.
staying as is. We'll reduce the wall height if that's an option, but we're not submitting for any change in the existing layout. It's not feasible. It doesn't work.
Well, it doesn't work because if he moves it, it's gonna be in the site.
Right.
That's why it's not being moved. That's why he's
That's your opinion.
not tearing it down and he's going off.
No, and again, I can
existing lines
appreciate,
there.
I
get it.
appreciate their stance on it too. 'cause
Right. I mean, if he's taking
obviously,
his-
the further they move it, it does impact his house, which I get it, I was just asking, because I know, I know that if it was those two conditions, you guys would be a lot more favorable to it, that's all I was trying to.
Right, and then also the slab that this thing is sitting on, this 12 by 8, it probably can't handle what's gonna be being built on top of it. You do think that thing has a
Foundation on it, or?
foundation
It
under it?
looks-
It's a stone wall underneath, over top of it.
I I looked at it, from the road just before I came here, and it looked pretty rough, but I couldn't
I'm
tell
sure there's
you.
no foundation under it.
I have no idea.
That thing's old, it's dirt.
It's old. Yeah, it looked pretty, I mean, one of my questions was that gonna stay included with the new garage, because I didn't know what the plan was till tonight, but, I have not looked at it at all. Just from 30 feet away, and it was old.
Because what's there is only 8-foot wall, right?
Probably 7 foot.
Seven.
Small.
And then you're gonna go from 7 to 4, double your size of your wall, and then you're going on base something on a slab that was poured who knows when. You know, is that slab that new, it's gonna sit on, is that gonna be 42 inches in the ground? I bet you it's not.
No, no walls bear on slabs. Walls bear on foundation walls.
Yeah,
Or they
do you
bear
think-
on thickened slab.
Which is correct, you think that slab has
That
that?
slab has no bearing on the structure of the
So it has to be
building.
removed.
Yes,
You're building on that structure, you just said you're saving the one wall and you're extending it up.
correct, I'm not saving the slab. Slab's coming out and getting replaced. The foundation wall is remaining in place. Bring the blueprints back out.
Any other comments?
Is there a foundation wall all the way around that building? The old building.
Isn't pouring new one. He's just saving a piece of
Of the floor. Right?
well, he says there's,
He
He
says,
says there's a foundation wall all around that thing, fine, and then there's a slab poured inside there.
Right.
The walls would be separate. Is that how, I did not see that. Is that what you're saying, is there?
The blueprints are there.
can't you answer the
Blueprint for
question?
the-
Answer
new
the question.
foundation wall
Blueprint
or
for the
old
new-
foundation?
For the new building.
There's gonna be new foundation walls put in
All the way
for
around.
the new garage addition. It's an addition.
yeah,
If something that doesn't exist is going to exist. So there's gonna be foundation walls, there's gonna be floors, there's gonna be.
on your new stuff, I agree with
Yeah.
you 100%. But you're using the one old wall.
Correct,
Is there a foundation wall under that old wall?
yes.
And it's 42 inches down.
I'd have to probe it to tell you that for a fact.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I doubt if there is a foundation wall there, I doubt if it's 42 inches.
On this plan, it says existing foundation to be verified prior to construction.
So if it doesn't meet, he's gonna have to tear it out anyway, right?
A building of this size could be a monolithic floor without 42 inches of footing. But it's under 720 square feet, so. There's a lot of questions, I mean, at the end of the day, it could stay there, it could be moved, it could, anything could happen, but essentially, he's here asking us to keep that 1'7". I was advertised to keep a 0 setback, but he's asking for 1.7. I believe, am I correct in saying that, or leaving it where it is, or are you moving it the rest of the way to the property line?
No, it's gonna remain
1'7",
just
1.7.
as the blueprint show. I mean, we're not submitting a pool that's gonna be 18 inches over, here's.
Don't even bring that up.
Here's,
That has nothing bearing on you. So don't even bring up somebody else's problem.
Just your plan shows 1.7 feet setback, and your request says 0.
so that it accounts for.
That's why I was asking for.
It accounts for the difference. If it's 0 to 1.7 feet, it accounts for up to 0.
I still don't know what the hardship is.
Well, one of those things, if you want to build, you don't want to own storage.
Name and address,
Mark
please.
Wilson.
He's the owner of the
I'm the
property.
owner of the property, Mark Wilson. My address is 1804 West, Walden Court, Henderson, Nevada. I also made 15, West 132nd Street,
Okay.
2005. So we would like to make the house better, remodel it. And I want storage. So we're building a place we can keep storage in. That's what this is designed for. It's up to you, and you folks to decide whether you wanna do it or not, no problem with that.
Right, and I'm asking what the hardship is if we don't grant 14-foot walls and 22-foot peak. And I'm not getting an answer. But in order for us to grant the variance, you have to meet the criteria. It's not injurious to safety, it doesn't affect the surrounding area, and what is the difficulty if you're not granted the request? And I'm not getting an answer for what the difficulty is.
You can't park a boat indoors on a property is basically the hardship.
And we don't,
Well, that's,
place two cars in the winter.
that's not a hardship for us to base anything on it, because you don't want to park your boat outside. There's boats parked outside all around this town and all over this country. So, you know, I go over to the yacht club, look how many boats are parked outside. So, I mean, that's not a hardship. So we're just looking for a hardship. We have to do our job, and our job consists of having a hardship. And you're not demonstrating a difficulty or a hardship for us to grant this variance. That's all I'm saying.
What's the width of the garage door?
16 feet,
60 feet, and it's 12 feet tall.
12 feet tall.
So if you went down to an 8-foot, you know, and took your ski rack off your boat, probably, would you not be able not to put the boat in there?
Or, I mean.
It's a ski rack. We know it bolts on there, we know that's how it does. If the ski rack is not on there, sir, you would be able to park your boat in there.
Right. We have no garage now because it's a boathouse close
Correct.
to the lake, and we want some kind of existing storage.
Correct.
So if you brought it down to a smaller scale, would that be all right?
Well, you're allowed to have a 14-foot wall, right?
Or a 10-foot wall.
What's that?
You can have a 10-foot
A
wall.
10-foot wall, right?
I mean, that would be it would be a 10-foot wall with the house matching roof pitch. The only thing he'd be asking is to extend that legal non-conforming building 8 feet
Onto his property.
by 8 feet.
He's going 8 feet towards his house, and he's going 8 feet into his property.
Correct, which is still allowable size, and then he would be approximately 120 feet, maybe 150 feet over the 25% lot coverage. And he does only have he has a 5,600 square foot lot, so.
I mean, I understand why we do the roofs. We do the roofs to match the houses. That's happened multiple times.
But what we don't have here is what the total lot coverage will be.
He just said it was 120.
It's 120, I don't.
Over.
What percent?
Huh?
What's the percent of lot?
Less than 30%.
I'm not a freaking mathematician, Jerry.
I figured that's less than 30%.
I can tell you though.
Okay.
John, didn't you just do
Jeff, you're supposed to have this stuff calculated.
Is that what I'm supposed to be doing?
John did the math. You can say the time. It's less than 30%.
Well, you asked me about square footage.
You guys let it go
Figured out.
2 blocks north.
Well, I mean, we're gonna focus on yours. I mean, I understand you own a boat, but, I mean, you can take that rack off. You can put your boat in there, and you can meet it. The height of it is a cosmetic to go with existing houses, which we do that all the time. And, you know, and then for people, you know, I feel for people, I mean, look at the house right behind you. I mean, there's a house that is as tall as that, that's right behind you, isn't it? It's to the west side of you?
Yes.
To the west.
The lot is about 56.
Yeah, that house is, how high, how tall is that house?
I just did.
30.
Yeah. So the cosmetic part of it, I get. It's just your height, if you get rid of the height of your wall and go to 10, which you're allowed to do, you knock off your ski rack, sir, you're gonna be able to put your boat in there. And then when you have your winter time, you can find it, and then you can put your 2 cars in there. I mean, you're still entering the same way anyways.
It's just a fuzz over, it's like 27.5% lot coverage.
And it has to be.
Less than 30%.
It is less than 30, it's not 20, it's a little less, it's like 27.5%.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the coverage.
Give or take.
And we're supposed to be at 25.
Yeah.
So it's not much.
On a lot that's only 40 by,
Definitely not much over lot coverage.
Right. Yeah.
by building that wall, that 4 foot, will that shorten the height of the peak of the roof?
Yeah, 4 foot.
That's right.
By taking the wall down, it's gonna take the roof down by 4 feet.
And as a homeowner, this is your house you live in, what do you think of that?
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Alright.
You're making your height to 18 feet then.
Is that, is
I mean, I guess
that,
I would, my
is
only
that a
concern is.
total height of 18 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So instead of 22, your total height is 18.
Well, at the end of the day, you would just need the variance for the addition of the 8 feet for the non-conforming shed, and then the lot coverage, the rest of it would meet our
You just need
zoning.
the setback variance.
He needs a setback for to add that 8 feet on the one side, and then.
So instead of no side yard setback, there's gonna be actual setback?
1.7 is the actual.
I would.
I thought that was the front yard. I'm not trying to, I swear that's what you said, right?
It is the 1.7
It is
front
the front yard based on
yard.
it.
So when it's worded, it's not no side yard, it's 1 foot 7 inches?
Front yard,
1.7 feet.
front yard.
Correct.
Front yard being the lake, right?
Oh, there's
No,
no
front yard being
Front, being the road.
street.
132nd Avenue.
Okay.
So he's asking for a 1.7 foot front yard setback.
That already exists.
Which already exists.
Which is not, so I don't even have to
You're
put
just
that.
adding
mo-
to add 8 feet to that legal non-conforming building, basically, to continue that building line 8 feet along the frontage.
I know, but it doesn't say that in this request.
Right, his request was advertised as 0 setback, which would allow, if that was approved as read, he could move that shed all the way to.
Well, this whole thing is misread, because he's got side yard. So technically, the whole thing is,
Side, what do you mean?
it says no side yard setback, it should be no front yard setback, right? So that's wrong.
You are correct.
So the whole thing's probably been advertised wrong. I mean, except the 22 and 18 feet was the only part that was correct on this whole request.
Jay, does that have to be fixed, or can I, if I make a motion, can I put it correctly in the motion?
Yes, you.
And that will resolve all this?
It should.
I just wanna make sure we have it right. I'm just confused, because we said front yard. So it says, petitioner's request to hold, or to build a garage addition in the front yard. So there is a front yard of a setback of 1 foot 7 inches?
1.7 feet.
1.7 feet.
It's intense,
With a peak roof that is listed as 22 feet will be changed to 18 feet. And a wall height of, instead of 14 feet, it's gonna be 10. With no side yard setback, with a lot coverage of over 25 feet, or 25%.
Yeah, well, there is, the side yard setback would be well, it's really a front yard setback.
That's where it's misprinted, right?
Well, the front yard, I have it. I have that 1.7 feet for the front yard. It's for the side yard, I just leave it the way it is, right? Because it doesn't
Side
have.
yard does not need to come into play at all, just don't say it.
Remove it, don't even say it
Don't
then.
even say it.
That should have said front yard setback.
I'm like I said, I'm just saying, it's sure we read it.
That's what I'm
right.
saying, it's totally confusing. How it's written.
What do you think, Dave?
Okay, no more questions, board decision.
Are you guys good with what's being proposed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I have no further questions.
I'm good.
You get a call for a motion.
Yeah, board decision. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the petitioner's request to have a building garage addition of 1.7 feet in the front yard with the peak of the roof at 18 feet, and I don't even have to do the wall height. And with a lot coverage over 25 feet, or 25%.
Put the wall height in there.
28%, just to be safe,
Of what?
28%.
28%.
Okay, with a lot coverage over, or not to exceed 28 feet, or 28%.
Both those dimensions should be not to exceed.
To what?
They both should have not to exceed before them. Not to exceed 1.7.
So we'll have to do it again.
If there's an interpretation to be had in the building department, we want to make sure it's clear right here.
I make a motion to approve the petitioner to request to build a garage addition setback of 1.7 feet in the front yard,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed,
Well, that one should be of at least, right?
1.7.
with a peak roof of 18 feet, not to what?
Not to
10-foot wall.
Not to exceed 18 feet, and the wall height at 10 feet, with a lot coverage of 28%, not to be over 28%,
Plus finding of fact.
plus the fine goes back.
I have a motion by Mr. Burnham. Second by Mr. Jackson. Everybody clear on what the motion is?
Sir,
1.7 front yard setback, wall height not to exceed 10 feet, peak of roof not to exceed 22 feet.
18.
I mean, 18 feet. Sorry, I'm doing it from memory.
And then you got lot coverage, sir.
And the finding the facts. Okay. No questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Capora?
No. Motion carries 4-1. Thank you, guys. Number 2, Ted Vineyard, developmental variance, owner petitioner Ted Vineyard, 9917 West 133rd Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana, vicinity of 9917 West 133rd Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Petitioner is requesting to replace and upgrade all existing signage, exceed the maximum allowable square footage for signage, and add an EMC digital sign. Our review's in order. Legal's in order, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Petitioner, name and address, please.
Kurt Albertson, 206 North, 850 East, Ballard, Indiana.
Give us a rundown of what you want.
I'm here for Mr. Vineyard, he's out of town, I'm the general contractor. Basically, we're remodeling the Dairy Queen, and he's upgrading his signage.
All right. My question is, what's the square footage? Go ahead, Tim.
I just want to make it clear, the reason that we put the request to include the overage, I mean, basically they're replacing all of the existing signage that's already been approved previously, so it's the same stuff, drive-through, signs, you know, all that little stuff adds up to the overage, but the main thing that he's here for is he's going to have the digital message board included on the sign, so we just added that in for clarity, so that way these signs are all approved for the second time, so it's essentially all of the same signage plus a digital message board up front. So that's mainly if you look at your proposed, there's how they have the little bottom piece with that they use the marquee with the letters on it, they're switching that to the digital message board, and virtually all the rest of the signs are just as they've been
You said message board going to be bigger than what's there?
a little bit.
A little bit.
But the rest of the sign's basically the same.
Right, just so you know, yeah, the rest of the signs, all the same stuff, it's just a digital message board versus that marquee. And if you look at the two signs, I believe that message board now is 4'5" by 8'3". It does not give any messages on the old one, but it was probably 4 by 6, if I had to guess. So it's not a huge difference.
Okay. I'm going to call for remonstrators to take a seat for a second.
Okay.
Any remonstrators for or against? Any remonstrators for or against? Anybody online?
No.
Okay, remonstration is closed. You can come back up here, sir. We heard what Tim had to say. I remember approving all this signage before. I don't really see a problem with it. Any other discussion on it, or?
No, Jeff, weren't it one time we were trying to instate like when they can have the sign on, sometimes dim down at midnight or something? Are we not worried about that anymore with all the new electronic signs? I thought we were trying to follow some kind of...
There is a set of guidelines that is with the electronic board that can't have flashing signs, has to be more than, I don't know the...
6 seconds.
Yeah, 6 seconds, no flashing on and off, and then
Okay.
the intensity level. I think I believe every new sign now has to be able to adjust the intensity for the brightness, so it's not knocking you off the side of the road.
Yeah,
I would think they would be covered.
I think every one of them has that now, so...
Okay.
Is this sign gonna be off when the Dairy Queen's closed? You know, they close at whatever, 11?
Typically, yeah, they can shut off.
So the electronic, I don't think that's gonna be any effect, because it's probably, you know, they
No,
close at 11 o'clock.
In the past, though, you would get one that was like 10,000 lumens and it wasn't
Well, like-
adjustable.
Yeah.
Like the one we approved
Does the
next.
Culver's one stay on after it's closed? I don't go out at night, so. I don't know what that, I don't know what that
Well,
does.
the one-
Can you guys tell me that? I have no idea.
Well, the one we approved next to them's gonna be brighter than the one they got, I guarantee it. That electronic sign between
Oh,
Sportsman's Den and the Dairy Queen.
Yeah, you know, I mean, if,
This thing's gonna-
if they are to, all of them now have the ability to be, so if you
Right,
go in
so-
there and say, hey, your sign's too bright, they
Right.
shut down.
Right.
I don't think they're
I don't think-
gonna have a problem with that.
I don't think we'll have a problem with this one, because they're gonna be off when they close, so.
Wasn't there a schedule for the culvert project?
That's what I thought.
I thought there was.
I thought we had timelines for those when they had to kind of go off and,
We've done it with others.
yeah.
I think it was, the People's Bank was one that I think
People's
we,
Bank, right? Yep.
that was asked to tone down.
There was a condition.
11 o'clock.
11 or midnight, I can't remember, somewhere right at that time.
Do you want that in the variance?
It's included in the approval.
Well, he has to do it according to...
It's not gonna be open at midnight.
Well, I don't think the dimming after dark is necessarily part of our ordinance.
Yeah, it was included in there.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so as long as
Yeah, there's a guideline, so I
Okay.
mean, just approved according to town guidelines is cool.
Yeah, all right.
They know they're gonna comply to them, I mean, regardless, so.
Perfect.
Okay, if no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the petitioner's request to replace and upgrade all existing signage to exceed the maximum allowable square footage for signage and add to an EMSD digital sign to the findings of the facts.
The only question I have here is maximum allowable. What is maximum allowable on that sign? It's kind of generic.
Well, it's 40 square feet per side, so once you add up the DQ thing, they're about done, according to the rules. So all of those, you know, their sign that they have up front is it, but then when you put the Dairy Queen on the building, and you put the little drive-through enter, exit, same thing with every restaurant in town, McDonald's,
Taco
Culver's,
Bell,
Well,
every one of them.
Culver's.
well, we're running into the open-ended, to exceed, it doesn't give them a limit.
No, because this is all the proposed signs are on your, if you look through your thing,
Yeah,
this is
but
what
I'm
you're,
saying, there's no limit.
Well,
Well,
but
It should be not to exceed,
as proposed.
as proposed would be.
Here's, all the signs that are here are proposed. So,
put that in your motion, as proposed.
as proposed. That takes care of just the ones that are here.
Well, if
All
that's
right,
not
can
on,
you please add that?
I get what you're saying.
I know, that's an open-ended, you know, anybody could read that any way they want, but
Right, as proposed.
we put as proposed, then
Allowable.
that puts the limit on it.
For
Yeah,
signage
perfect.
and add EMC digital sign. So we're removing exceeds the maximum. Yeah, and as proposed to the findings of the facts.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Burnham, we have a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Jackson.
Anything like with all of them.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Kapur?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Update, Cedar Lake Storage. I got an email from Mr. Viss today stating that it was being paid. I think, Jeff, we were copied in on that?
I talked to Tim this afternoon, that yes, it seems like everything's, the trench drain's in place.
They were actually paving yesterday and today. At the status of the paving being complete, they had a bunch of campers up front. They are laying down asphalt. So the part you can see through the gate is paved. And they're out there currently working, so I feel pretty good that I think by your plan commission meeting on Wednesday, it'll be a done deal. I'm sure it will be because they're out there working, so.
I believe so, and that's kind of what Nathan alluded to today in his email.
Yeah, it's looking good. They're out there working, so it's turning black now, so all good.
Sounds good. Okay, public comment.
Good evening, Terry Broders, 14513 Morse. I come up in defense of fence builders. And I think this might help you out in the future with some of the questions that are coming before you with fencing and easements and property lines. On behalf of all fence builders, being one myself, one of the first jobs I ever had when I was 15, I worked with my dad's friend who owned a fence company. I bought a truck when I was 16. I've been fencing ever since. About 3 or 4 different major companies I can call at any time and get work from because I'm good at what I do. And when you say these, we're blaming fencing for putting fences in the wrong spot, any reputable company would need a signature from a client, homeowner to move a fence from what's already been given to them as a topo, as-built, I guess you would call it. I believe in Cedar Lake, to build a fence today, to pull a permit for a fence today, you actually have to have that permit, or I'm sorry, that survey with the as-built on it. Any good fence company is not going to rely on a neighbor's fence, they're not going to rely on stakes in the ground, they're going to pull their lines off the foundations. They're going to have lines on both sides, they're going to be able to measure everything with dry lines, and they're going to move it, good fence companies are going to move it 3 to 6 inches in, so even the concrete on the opposite side of the post on the property of the client. So when a fence gets moved that far off, 30 feet, that's not the fence company's fault.
It's not 30 feet.
Well, let's even say 10, it's still not a fence company.
It's probably 4, but.
No, I'm talking about that whole line, and the whole line's out near the street, that whole line on Ferris has got to be pretty far out there, no?
It's about 4 feet off, and again, these are sins of the past before the town required that.
And I get that, I certainly get that.
At the end of the day, the stuff that's happened in the past,
And I
not
totally
happening now,
understand that. People building permits, they're pulling house permits, but they didn't pull fence permits, I'm guessing. In fact, that's pretty new subdivision. Still thinking there was probably permits had to be pulled.
Yeah, there was fences.
I do believe tonight, all those fences were built on permits. It was discussed on public during this meeting tonight. So the fences were moved by choice, and they incorporated easement property into their backyard, just like a lot of people do in a lot of different subdivisions. This is not the only time this ever happened, not the only state, not the only town, not the only county. We all know that. Most of the time, the homeowner associations will grant them permission to say you can enclose it at your own cost. And if it has to be moved, it will be cost to you to move it and reinstall it. In other words, it costs money to take down a fence. Manpower, labor, fuel.
Yeah. Just so you know, these people have 4 to 6 feet less backyard than they should have. The fences are in their yard,
But it's a easement, and they're told not to fence it in originally, and they did, after they were told not to. And exactly the point, they put a permit in the easement after they built a pool in the easement, a full pool, I understand from the story tonight. It was built on a permit that showed it in the property, it was built outside the property line. And it was almost like it's no big deal. But here's the problem with that. Since not every person in that 24-house line has got pools outside the easement, outside maybe some trees or a shrubbery, maybe a garden and a fence, most of them probably don't have anything in that easement. But now we're talking about spending money, paying lawyers and administration costs, the time it costs you guys to come up with the idea. All that costs money to change that easement line, right? That takes administration costs, and then you have to file those documents, no doubt. Now on top of that, what about if not all 24 people want that? And you're doing a blanket easement change. Well, if you take a blanket easement change, and you take usable land, you take unusable land and convert it into usable land, That's gonna change the tax base. That's gonna change over the course of years. That's gonna get recorded as usable land, and that's gonna change every owner's tax bracket. Now, in my mind, again, and I'll say it, it's always best to follow the rules from the beginning. Therefore, we don't have to change the easement lines. We don't have to pay our lawyer to do all the legal work it takes to do that. And this is not the first one. We've been through this round and round. I've come to all the board meetings. I've had this conversation at multiple different levels about doing it right. And when people come in and ask for variances without hardship, and we're sitting up here trying to figure out a way to help them, well, you're not thinking of it the right way. You guys wrote the rules. And the rules were written for the exact reason to protect existing residents. That's why ordinances exist. So the people that are here already don't have to get stuck with something that doesn't fit. Not to say anything doesn't fit tonight, I haven't looked at that particular property. I'm glad that the amendments were made. But you know, something really struck me as odd tonight. What really struck me as odd is we didn't defer that melee to straighten out all those problems. We jumped over all those problems without a blueprint, without a change in any of the blueprints. We jumped over all those things written that you guys didn't even get the package for. And I've seen so many things deferred in the past for not having a package, for not getting the package in time, for not having enough information, for the information not even being close to being usable. I didn't see the blueprint, Tim. I'm not trying to question the project at all. I didn't. That's not my objective here. My objective here is to try to figure out a way so we don't keep falling victim to these same problems. The problem being is that if you're changing the rules every time somebody comes up here, what does that mean for the people that are already existing? You built that house, or let's say, for example, that property gets built in that location. Sure, Tim, yeah, I agree with Tim, it's his property, he's got the lake rights, but let's face it, it's a 40-foot wide lot. It's, you know,
Okay, we get your point. Are you
Thank you.
scolding us here?
No, Mr. President, I'm sorry for that.
Thank you.
Terry,
Thank
on
you.
that thing there, the only thing he got was 1.7 setback. Everything else he got.
I did catch that.
So we reduced that request down to 1.7 feet easement.
Right, and again, the building's there, so it.
Right.
It's
already
In closing,
existing non-conforming.
in closing,
Did you want to say something?
I would just like to add that if we're gonna pay the cost to make those changes, like the easement changes, that costs money. And I would expect that we should pass that cost down to the people who created the reason why we're doing it. The violators of the rules that you guys wrote. Thank you.
The only problem with that, Terry, we approved those. So we made the mistake just as much as they did, so.
Yeah, but they built them Jerry, you're right, you approved them, but they built them in the wrong spot, and then they were inspected and okay.
Right.
That's the problem. Not the fact that you approved them where they were, but they built them in the wrong spot. That's the problem, sir.
And we approved the spots they built them in. That was the problem.
Any more, public comment? Seeing none, we're adjourned.